Hey, this is Steve Peck, and that's Gary Ibsen on here on the line with us tonight. And we are talking about tech stuff, inside tech, if you will, kind of behind the scenes, under the hood, look at the kinds of things that your tech guys or your managed service providers, whatever the kind of things they do. Gary, you probably have a better thought on what that really means. So I'm going to let you sort of explain what we're up to.
Okay, sure. I think what we're trying to do is share some of our insights, share some of our experiences that we've had or that we have, and provide some tips and some valuable information for those that want to know about protecting their small and medium-sized businesses from IT-related risks, but also you'll probably catch us going off on a couple of tangents, as a couple of IT professionals can do, and we have just a lot of stories and things to share, and we hope we also educate you as well. So I think that in a nutshell is pretty much it. I think as people watch this, we're going to invite some feedback. We want this to kind of grow and evolve and change. I don't think we're locked in on a name yet, so maybe you can help us name this even.
Yeah, most definitely. After you've watched this, it would be great if you could respond, send us a message, whatever, and just let us know what you think it ought to be named after you hear it. Like that. Cool.
All right, so what's our first topic today, Steve?
Well, I thought maybe the first thing we could do, I know right now I'm in Florida, and Gary, you're in Pennsylvania. And I know in Pennsylvania last week, on last Thursday, it was kind of the beginning of storm season. And here in Florida, over the weekend, when I first got down here last week, people were saying, oh, it hasn't rained in forever. And then, we need rain. And then Sunday, storm season began. And again, it rained, with storms on Sunday for a while. And then today it rained on Monday. I think today's Monday. Anyways, it rained with big storms, big black clouds. So storm season brings some things that business owners, basically anybody who uses a computer, probably ought to be aware of some stuff that can happen to them, I think.
Most definitely. So power surges and power spikes. I think most of us have experienced or heard of someone who's suffered from a power strike or like a lightning strike rather, that surged or fried some equipment. As someone who works with a lot of small and medium-sized businesses, we really take this time to kind of ramp up our protection for those kinds of situations. So sometimes our advice is heeded, other times not. And there are some times where, if your building can get hit directly, which is very rare, obviously it doesn't happen all that often. But
it does happen.
But it certainly does happen, and sometimes you can put all the precautions, put all the measures in place, have all the battery backups and UPSs, and sometimes you can still get bit by that. But you do everything you can to try to minimize that if your company or if your livelihood, your business depends on technology or depends on computers. So,
which today, by the way, I'm sorry, Gary, today, one of the things, more and more people's businesses really do depend on computers, even when they don't think so much that it does. If it's in retail, obviously they have all the issues around taking credit cards and doing all those kinds of things. But if you're manufacturing or a lot of service industries, you really rely on your computer to have information about your clients, about your events, about orders that you've taken, all kinds of things. We had a client a couple years ago who they actually did get hit by lightning. Their building got hit by lightning. And you were kind of alluding to this, I think. And in this case, it was really true. you can protect yourself from all kinds of stuff, right? There's all kinds of things you can protect yourself, but you know, if there's disaster's going to come, it's kind of like that commercial with Mayhem. If you ever saw that TV,
yeah, mayhem's just gonna happen, right?
it's right. It's going to happen.
You
Right?
cannot
So,
avoid it.
yeah. So this company, they get hit by lightning. Like their building gets hit, it blows the electric meter off the side of the building. Right.
Oh,
So,
I heard about that.
yeah. So it's the meter is out in a parking lot someplace, and awesome electricity goes in, follows that in, and it's a manufacturing plant, and they had an open circuit, which means that it wasn't a closed circuit. Means that the power could flow. Open circuit meant it went so far, and then it couldn't go any further. So it was great, right? So power comes in, goes in on those wires, goes in on the electrical circuits, hits the point where the circuit's open, can't go into the rest of the facility, right? Awesome. We're doing good. Now it runs, turns around, goes right back out that wire, out to the telephone pole, right? Now it's on a telephone pole. What else is on the telephone pole are a whole bunch of other wires, including their cable system, which is how they got internet. So the electrical charge jumps from the electrical wires to the cable connection, rides that into the building, and down goes their network, you know, like dominoes, every piece of equipment. You know, there's a router, you know, there's a modem and then a router and then your servers and all kinds of stuff just sort of fell over into their building. What's really bad is with that kind of a thing, the kind of a surge, there's the obvious things that are fried. You can tell, oh, they don't turn on, they're burnt. There's some stuff that's obviously damaged. The bad part is there's a lot of stuff that's damaged that you can't tell it's damaged because it's been impacted by the surge. It's kind of been weakened, but it's not evident right away. You know, so when you go to fix stuff, you know, you fix A, B, and C. You know, the first two things, and then once you get that running, you find C isn't working, and then you fix C. And find out, well, D's working, but F and G down the stream, they're not working. It can take a long time. It took about a week to get their system where they could actually function. You know.
Yeah. Hey, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe on that particular incident, the surge came like once it got to the modem and router, the networking equipment. I think most of that stuff might have been surge protected on its like AC power outlets. Did it not come through like the actual network cables, the Cat 5s, Cat 6s?
Yeah, exactly. So it came in.
So there's like burnt up NICs and stuff like that. There's like network cards and things that were burnt up that still looked like they were working, like printers and things like that, if I remember right.
Exactly. And it's really great because when you think about the things that we do normally to protect our systems, you know, we have battery backups, we have UPSs, we have surge protectors on the electrical piece of our equipment. So we plug our equipment into surge protectors. In this, you know, in their case, it all came in on the Cat 5 network connections.
Got in there. Yeah, I think there's like a $25 part you can get that will
$25-$50.
It'll kind of like self-destruct to prevent that. Yeah, that's pretty interesting. So last week, I don't know if I think you might have took off to Florida when this occurred. It was Wednesday or Thursday last week. We were getting support calls from one of our customers. They were having some sporadic internet performance. A couple of guys said they weren't able to send or receive email, and so you know the level 1 techs are troubleshooting this stuff, and they're asking me some questions. And as part of the troubleshooting measure, I had noticed that they have 5 or 6 servers. They were all offline. And to make a long story short, they had a blown circuit that happened to be tied to their server room, and a whole wall's worth of electrical outlets were completely down. And they knew that they had a blown circuit. At least they're a group full of engineers, and they've got a lot of really smart guys, and they got some electricians and stuff like that. And again, I don't know all the fine details that happened internally, but I can tell you I was working with their leadership to help determine and ascertain, what was going on. They had said, "Oh yeah, we blew a circuit," but they didn't think it was a big deal. And when I said, "Well, that circuit must be linked to this server room," and their servers were down, and they weren't going to get any business, they weren't going to get any work done that day until they got fixed. They definitely got on the ball and got it fixed there. But it made for a very, very hectic morning there. And it was just really, really interesting. Now, I think their location has been known to have poor power. So measures are being taken for that. But man, I mean, they have the battery backups, they have the surge protectors, but it was all behind that where they were bit, where the damage was taken. It was really pretty interesting and very scary for a while there. When you're looking at that amount of equipment down.
I think that's the thing, when we talk about this, it really can be really scary. And, one of the things we talk about, and maybe it's a good segue into the whole idea of data protection and data backups and things, which,
it really does go hand in hand.
Because, and you may need those for reasons other than your, weather-related things. Obviously, the weather-related stuff occurs, and there's a season for it. We're entering that season where it's more of those kinds of events. But there's a lot of stuff that happens in your business that can bring your systems down, which can bring your business to its knees. And not to sound alarmist, but we did have a client a few weeks ago who there's probably a lot of lessons to be learned in their story, and unfortunately it was painful for them. And I don't know, maybe this is the good part for us.
Hey, real quick, I apologize for being rude and cutting you off, but I before we leave the power surge topic, for our listeners and our viewers, I just want to say, hey guys, check your battery backups. Might even be a good idea to do a test on them, like unplug the power on it, see how long you get out of it. If it's more than 5 years old, definitely consider replacing those. And I don't know the technical name off the top of my head for those devices that you can put after your modems to protect your network gear from surges. But hey, shoot us an email, give us a comment, and I'd be happy to send you a link or give you a call and get you the rest of that information. So just with that power surge piece, hey, double check all your critical machines. And like I said, this now is the time to put in those measures.
It is, yeah.
Before.
Most definitely, because
all right, cool.
I think that's the thing. There's stuff that you can do to protect yourself.
Yep.
And when we talk about backups, that's one of the things they're a way to protect part of your business, as well as taking the precautions, like you're saying, making sure you have your battery backups in place, making sure you have network protection to accommodate surges. Those things, all things you can do, and they're not very hard to do. If you're not sure what to do, reach out to us, and we can help you out. Anyway, so we started to talk about other things that occur too. Mm-hmm. So we had somebody we work with. Fortunately, this was a service, a computer server that was outside the realm of what we normally dealt with them. We dealt with them for some other services, and unfortunately, they were actually making updates to it. So they're updating their programs.
I know which story this is.
Yeah, these which need to be done periodically. It happens all the time. You'll know if you work with us. one of the things we do is we tell you, we're going to turn off Windows updates, because updates can cause a lot of mayhem. There he is again. They can cause a lot of mayhem that you aren't aware of, and you'll come in the morning and nothing works, right? Because updates ran the night before. Well, in this case, they had particular software. It was a line of business software. So it's really the critical line of business software is the critical piece of software that somebody uses that like runs their business, kind of controls their money machine inside their business, right? How they actually generate money. And these guys, this was their system that did that. They thought they were protected. They thought they had it backed up. They thought a lot of stuff. Unfortunately, when they made these changes, something went wrong. Let's just leave it at that. Something went wrong, and they tried to recover. And unfortunately, they did. I mean, it's a whole series of things. It's really funny. Now it's funny. It wasn't very funny at the time, but it was a comedy of errors. They ship off backups. They had backup tapes, kind of, which aren't the most. They're certainly not the most current technology. They had these backup tapes in place, which they should have been able to recover from, but they couldn't. So they thought something was wrong with their equipment. They had the manufacturer look at the equipment. Of course, the manufacturer didn't really care about them, their business. Their concern was to make sure their equipment, that the manufacturer's equipment wasn't the fault, right? So
Yep.
in proving that it wasn't the fault, they may have, we're not sure, but they may have
Made the problem worse, really.
they may have corrupted what data they did have to work with. They ship off a backup, right? This cartridge backup to their vendor, who was really trying to help them, right? They really were trying to help them, but we don't know whether it happened, if they ever had one. But we know this: when it arrived at their vendor, software vendor, we know that there was nothing on the tape. It was blank. Could have happened in transit. It could have never been anything on it. We don't really know. Most likely something happened in transit that it got wiped out, right? Now, if you step back for a second and think about it, what they had, that tape, that was their business on that tape. And we tend not to think about it. Unless you deal with this stuff all the time, we really tend not to think how important it is. Like, it's really gold. It's the business right there on that little stupid tape that maybe was $25 or $50, $100 tape, and it needs to be protected with your life, not put in an envelope and sent across the country to somebody. Long story short, we have a fellow we work with who's a genius kind of guy, and fortunately, they got a hold of us. We talked to their vendor. We kind of got an understanding what was going on, and we're able to put this guy to work. Now, the good news is, when he started working, there was probably less than a 10% chance that we were going to be able to help them recover. It really wasn't very good. And I mean, it's great news that our fellow, he was able to find the file system. It was another sort of comedy of errors, but he's able to dig through all of their stuff and come up with a copy of their files that I think they were maybe a week old or a few days old. It wasn't perfect, but it was something to work with. So they had a few days transactions they had to do. Now, this was a week after it had occurred, and easily they came very close to not having anything, that there really would not have been anything to reconstruct this information. Now these guys, they're
They
a
had no idea
seasonal
what their
business.
orders were. They had no idea who owed them money.
Yeah,
I mean, we're talking about, this organization has like 30 plus people. I mean, their livelihoods are like at stake at this moment. So it was really, really scary. I wasn't in the room, but I can tell you that our offices, it was like extremely tension filled. We value all of our customers, no matter what their size is. And to hear of a situation like this, in which we believe could have been prevented, is just, it's really painful. There's a lot of lessons that can be learned. I mean, I don't want to make it sound too doom and gloom, because actually I'm extremely proud of our team, and I feel extremely blessed to work with individuals that can pull off heroic stuff like this. But we do everything we can not to put any of our customers or even ourselves in a position where you know, we have to do something very risky and just you know, heroic, I guess is really the best word for that. So
yeah, we really don't like being heroes.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of nice in a way, but the bottom line is it's way too risky for the businesses. It's you know, it's kind of, it's like walking a tightrope without a net.
So let's do this. Let's do this, Steve. Let's say we're this customer. We know these updates have to happen. How would have we advised them? How could have we prevent this? Obviously, I have some ideas. I'm sure you do too.
Yeah, that's a good question. There's a lot of different ways you could do it, depending on the systems and what you have in place. A lot of our systems, this particular one, we didn't have this, but a lot of our systems, we have backed up on an appliance. We use an image-based backup, which what that means is that we can create a copy of the server. We can like clone it from the backup. So, and we could have cloned that server could have been cloned. And we could have run the backups or run the, I'm sorry, the updates, made all the updates on the cloned server.
Great. So we could have had a test environment very easily in a matter of minutes, spun it up and installed these updates in a safe place. And if it would have broken it, messed it up, whatever, it'd be no big deal. Their business would continue to run, and we'd be able to go back to the vendor and say, hey, this broke it, got any advice? Or we would have troubleshot it from there and got it fixed.
Right. And one of the things it begins to do is you begin to limit where something goes wrong or could go wrong, and you're sort of taking each step and measuring as you go. Like, for example, one of the things that we have as a procedure, one of our standard procedures, is that when we work on a server, anything like this, two things would occur. They should always occur. One is backing it up right before we do the work. Like in this case, if we're going to update the operating system, or we're going to update the database, those things, let's get the freshest backup we can get and make sure it's good. That's like step one. Step two is, step two is we want to validate the hardware is good. The hardware system is good. So what we do is we reboot it. Now, if it's a server, we reboot it, because if there's something wrong, servers run for a long time. So if the server's been running, could have been running for a year, 6 months, a year, maybe 2 years. Sometimes they run for a long time.
Hopefully it's been rebooted more than that, but more often, but you never know.
A lot of times they're not. You know, they're running and people don't want to screw with them. If it's really their business is dependent upon it. A lot of businesses run, you know, they've got people working daylight. They've got people who maybe work from the road in the evening. They might have a shift that works in the evening. They're working all the time and don't, you know, rebooting their server is a kind of, that's a luxury almost, right? Well, anyways, so if it hasn't been rebooted, well, you don't know if it's going to reboot, right? Because the server, everything really runs in memory, it's not written to disk always, right? So the server could be running for a long time. There's a lot of stories we could tell you about issues there, but the point is reboot the server and make sure it comes up, because now if that doesn't come up, now you know the problem is local to that.
Well, you got to fix that problem before you can move on to doing any kind of updates.
Yeah, exactly. And now you know where it is. And so you just kind of like walk through the steps like that. Further down, but if you skip those things and now you go, you have a problem and now you're trying to recover from a backup, for example, and it's not working, you know, depends on what it is. But you may not be able to pinpoint what's wrong. It could look like, oh, the hardware is not working, or the OS isn't working, or the updates didn't work, or
Right.
a whole bunch of things. But if you haven't sort of stopped, been methodical going through the process and tested as you went, you don't really know where to go. You know, it's sort of like, well, anyways, that's what it's like. So.
Yeah, it certainly makes it way harder to try to troubleshoot. So, you'd mentioned turning off Windows updates, turning off automatic Windows updates on machines. So for our smaller customers that maybe don't have servers, and for other folks that find this that don't work with servers, we install Windows updates in a controlled manner. So they are scheduled. If reboots are needed, that's taken care of and that's communicated to the customer. We don't just allow our customers' business machines to just install any update that Microsoft deems important because it could have adverse effects. So they are screened and then determined if they are good or not, meaning are they going to have compatibility issues, and it's just installed in a controlled manner. Some of them are critical and some of them are security related. Those are definitely recommended. But again, they are installed in a controlled manner. Nobody likes to be in a pinch, be in a bind, have that really big sales call lined up, go to boot up their computer, and it says, hey, we're installing one of 30 updates. And you sit there anywhere from 15 minutes to a couple of hours, perhaps. In the past, that used to bite me on Friday afternoons, right? It's like time to go home. It's like 4:59. I'm gonna hit the power down button to go home, and oh, lo and behold, a bunch of updates have installed, and now I have to call my wife and tell her, hey, go ahead and start dinner without me. I'll be home when my computer finishes updating.
And we all know that when something goes wrong, right? When things happen, they always happen at the most inopportune times.
Oh, right, yeah. This stuff never happens at a good time, at our business's slow point, right?
Right. No, so like Gary, so what happened to Gary? Poor Gary, he's supposed to be going home. His wife has hired a babysitter. Gary's got two little kids. His wife's hired a babysitter. They got a big night planned, and Gary goes to do these updates. Not only do they take a long time, but geez, they screw up the computer. Right?
I'm in trouble.
So now the computers doesn't work right afterwards.
Yeah.
So now Gary's not only, they have to wait for the 30 updates. Now he's got to figure out what went wrong and how to back out of it. And so doing them in a controlled environment makes a lot of sense. And we have a lot of our updates are actually pre-screened before we put them out. Doesn't mean that we couldn't solve problems, but they've all been tested, and then
we minimize that chance.
Yeah. So, yeah, exactly. So if it happens,
like by a lot.
Yeah, it's cut down a lot. So that's a good thing.
Awesome. So what else is rattling around in your head? What else should we be telling people about, you think?
Well, I think there's a couple of things right now going on the internet. There's two different ones. One, and I'm just going to mention, we can come back to it at another time maybe. Right now, Google has come out with it a month or so ago. They announced another update they're going to make to their algorithms, their search algorithms, the Google search stuff. And now they're telling us ahead of time what's going to happen. And in this case, there's the changes specifically relate to mobile devices, mobile phones, tablets, all those things. Those are mobile operating systems. And Google treats their searches different, right? And what they're going to do is they're going to score people's websites on mobile friendliness. So they're going to look and Google has some stuff out already. You can read about it, but they are going to look and see if your website is mobile friendly or not. And if it doesn't pass Google's mobile friendly test, it's going to suffer. I'm just going to put it that way. Suffer in the mobile searches. But still
it may be ranked lower. Is that what you're?
Yeah, maybe ranked lower, or it may not be ranked at all. It may just be eliminated.
Oh,
right?
wow.
It's not 100% sure. They've just kind of strongly said you want to get it. You want to handle that. But clearly, we all compete in business. So if your competition's is and yours isn't, right? So if your competition is mobile friendly and your website isn't mobile friendly, you can pretty much guarantee that from a mobile device that they're going to beat you out.
Gotcha. I think when you first mentioned that, I was a little surprised, but like thinking about how often when I need to look something up, I go to the most readily available device, which is my phone in my pocket or my tablet. I'm thinking, I don't know the numbers, but I think the bulk of searches that are done online now are done off of mobile devices and not computers anymore.
It's not. It's still kind of both.
Is it?
But it's around 50-50, 60-40, something like that. So there's mobile devices are becoming more and more. And like when I first heard about that, I was thinking, there are people like my wife, right, who she's probably typical of a lot of the users in the world, especially people who are going to use search to find things. She uses a phone and an iPad. She doesn't use a desktop computer at all.
Got it.
Those are her two devices. So for someone like her, if you're someone she's looking for, but your site isn't mobile friendly, she's not going to find you any longer.
Wow.
So, and I'm sure she's not unique.
Right. Right. No, not at all. I mean, I actually know a few business owners that are in that boat. They just don't. I mean, they can do everything they need to do off of their phones and off their iPads. So.
Yeah. And why not? Right.
Yeah. So, and I mean, correct. I don't know that much about the Google search stuff, but I think that landscape changes. Like, I don't know if it's on a regular basis, but it changes all the time. I mean, I keep seeing, in my RSS feeds and stuff that there's a new Google change coming like all the time.
Yeah. And Google, we kind of like to slam them for some of these changes, but really what they're trying to do is create a better environment for people doing the searches. If you look, all you really have to do is look at a website, for example, that is not mobile friendly. Look at it on your phone, right? To get your smartphone out, take a look at it, and what you're going to see is something that looks pretty ugly, right? And Google's kind of saying, hey, our users who are searching shouldn't have to look at an ugly website or an ugly delivery of information. And it's not like ugly, they probably can't actually see it, because the pictures overlay the text, or the text is so small you can't read it. There's, those are a bunch of the criteria that they use for it. So anyways, that's cool. Happening. It's happening later this month. So, again, if somebody's got questions, they can reach out to us and we can try to help them steer them in the right direction. But that kind of brings us to things that are happening like that. I know in that same realm, there's some, I think you found an FBI warning about something recently.
Yeah. I didn't get a chance yet to read up into it all that much, but the gist of it was around people that use or people that are administrators for WordPress-based websites. So again, I apologize for those that are listening, but websites, I'm sure some people out there, I know there's people listening that are going to know more about this than I do, but about website design and that kind of thing. But WordPress is almost like a, and see, maybe you know more than this about this than I do, but it's like a foundation. It's like a platform for your website to kind of build it and manage it and get different tools and things like that on there. And along with WordPress comes plugins, so you can get like people that want to have like a little comment box on their page, or they want to have a special graphic or a little place to download a newsletter. You can get plugins on your page that give you that, and you can download and install them rather than having to try like code it yourself in some of the other platforms. And there are updates for those plugins and for WordPress, kind of like everything in computers and technology. But there have been a lot of security related plugin updates out there. And the FBI and also the CERT group, I can't remember the exact acronym. It's like the Computer Emergency Readiness Organization. Again, it's a branch of the federal government geared around helping us stay protected from cyber threats. They've issued this warning saying, hey, there are ISIS sympathizers out there that are exploiting these outdated plugins to gain root admin level access to your web page and will deface it. Meaning they will like put graffiti up or take your messages down and put up their own messages, which you are likely not going to agree with. That's pretty scary. I mean, I wouldn't want to wake up one morning and see some kind of a pro-terrorist message on my company webpage. I haven't seen any firsthand, but I mean, just the thought of that. I mean, imagine the PR control you're going to have to do if that were to happen.
Well, I think one of the things that's well, websites are a great example of this. A lot of companies, the website they have is relatively static. That is, they get it built, they kind of work on their message, they get their message on the website. It has a communication medium to it, but the communication is one way. It's kind of, if you go to the website, you can contact them, you can send them information, you can inquire, you can call their phone number, you can do all those things on our website. So the point of that is the business isn't looking at the website all that often. It's kind of set it up and forget about it.
That's right.
And I think what you're talking about, Gary, is, hey, maybe you better be looking at it way more frequently and making sure that these updates that appearance-wise don't seem to, probably aren't making any difference.
Exactly.
But
exactly.
You need to see that they get handled and get taken care of, because if you don't, other issues kind of crop up. So it's an area that sometimes people put in the back, and it's out of sight is out of mind, really. But like anything, technology is awesome. It really is awesome, but it can bite really hard.
Right. I mean, we can even get into the whole backup bit too, having a backup of your website files and stuff like that as well. If something were to happen, being able to restore back those files as well. So yeah, there's a lot to learn there as well.
Yeah, and people who have WordPress websites, one of the great things is they can get a backup of their website, have it, and they can have it frequently. They can do it once a week, once a day, whatever the right interval is. They can move it off site. They can move it off site. They can put it on their own computer, on a USB drive. They could put it out in the cloud somewhere. And the cool thing about that is they can restore that to a different host relatively easy. I mean, there's some mechanics around it, but it's not particularly it's not super difficult. It's a doable thing. It maybe takes half a day to do everything. You got to move your domain and stuff. But if you did get hit by one of these things, one of these ISIS things or something like that, and and you have a good backup off of your website, you have it someplace else, and you catch it, you can, if you've built it right, so you got the backup and you've got control of the pieces, you can kind of get out of it relatively quickly. But first, you got to catch it, and two, well, I guess really first, you've got to plan how you built it out so that you have control of the pieces, and then two, you got to catch it, because if you don't catch it, it doesn't matter how good your backup is.
Cool.
Like that. So
awesome.
But other stuff's been going on. We've been talking a while now. I don't know if you want to continue or not.
I was gonna say, how are we doing on time? I do have a really cool story that I could share, but I'm wondering if we maybe we want to leave our viewers, listeners on a little bit of a cliffhanger and say, hey, I actually have a good friend of mine who nearly lost. I mean, I don't even. Let's just say she opened the door for hackers on her computer.
Nice.
So yeah, oh man, it was.
When you say open the door, what do you mean? Like she went to the door and let him in?
Metaphorically speaking, yes. Yes.
Wow. I want to hear more about this myself.
Yeah. I mean, it was disguised, but I wanna share that story here soon. So we'll schedule the next one of these to take place, hopefully quick, or at the very latest maybe next week, because I think this is something that a lot of people are going to be able to learn from.
Yeah, that's a great. We've talked about a lot of stuff tonight, and this is kind of a great note to leave people with. And I guess if we could give you,
if anybody's dying to know beforehand, again, feel free to comment, shoot me an email. You can reach me at gmi@teamcct.com. You can call me at 724-846-8326. Why don't I go ahead and throw a plug out there?
Well, cool. It's there's a lot to do, right? And I guess we've talked about a lot of stuff. So we would encourage you to take, to minimize your risk. Do the things you can do to protect yourself from the storm season, from some of these other unanticipated events. There's a lot of things you can do to plan your way around them, or really minimize your risk.
That's right. Manage your updates, manage your backups, test it, create safe places, contact your trusted IT advisors and ask them about these updates and about about your backups and how you're protected and things like that.
Yeah, and I think just one last thing about that whole thing about backups and all of these is you really want to run, whether you call them fire drills or you want to work through scenarios. Oh, what if X happened? What would we do? Except we were just talking about the website. Hey, if that happened to our website, what would we do? Do we have all the pieces of information? You may find, oh yeah, except Bob Smith is the guy who did our website 10 years ago, and he's the one who has the access to the place where the name is, right? All that stuff is.
Yep.
And we haven't talked to him in 7 years. So, if you don't have you want to get all the information together, because if it happens, you're going to need to talk to Bob Smith, right?
Yep.
So do your homework, I guess.
Cool. Awesome. Hey, thanks so much. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Talk to you soon.
Awesome. Thanks, Gary. Have a great night.
Take care, Steve. Enjoy Florida.
Hey, thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.